The Midday Mix on Mix 93.8.
Business Boost is brought to you by Mix 93.8 and the National Small Business Chamber, turning small business into big business.
Joining me on the line, CEO and founder of NSBC Africa, Mr. Mike Anderson. Mike, welcome back to the show. How are you today, sir?
Damian, all good, thank you, and it's great to be back as always.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. So today we're going to be providing some key insights to help struggling businesses to keep going and, of course, turn that tide. It's been an absolute bloodbath, I think, after the last 2 years with COVID and now the economy struggling. I see a lot of businesses either really struggling or shutting down. So I think today's conversation is absolutely perfect. And first things first, maybe we get those grim statistics out of the way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It has been tough out there, but, it's not all doom and gloom. I think we just need to do what we need to do to get out of that. So let's get the statistic out of the way. The entrepreneurial spirit starts off many small businesses around the world. Now, what really sends a small business spiraling down to the entrepreneurial valley of death? The leading cause of business failure is insufficient cash flow. The grim statistic is that those businesses fail. 83% fail due to cash flow issues.
That's incredible. 83%.
Correct. It's a big statistic.
Now, if that isn't unsettling enough, what are some of the other top reasons why these businesses don't manage to make it?
Well, let's highlight that quickly, Dan. First of all, they start with too little money. Now, look, some businesses you don't require much money, but those that do, you cannot start with too little money. They lack a well-developed business plan, including insufficient research on the business. They didn't price things properly or failed to include all necessary factors when determining prices. They were overly optimistic about achievable sales, money required, and what they need to do to be successful. And of course, they didn't recognize or accept their weaknesses and didn't seek the help from others. So look, it's no wonder many small business owners easily lose confidence and give up too quickly instead of plowing through the tough times. Despite these staggering statistics, there are things you can do to improve the health of your business and turn things around.
So, Mike, obviously when your business starts to go under strain, you start to suffer. I mean, your head is all over the place. You're worrying about your business. You're worrying about providing for your employees, for your family. So where does a business owner start when they're under enormous strain? Where do they look to begin with initially?
So first of all, for starters, let's get to the positive side. Don't give up. Often some of these challenges are a natural part of starting a business. That's why it's important to take a deep breath, refocus, and not to give up. Don't lose the passion and drive that motivated you to start your business in the first place.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, there's a number of things business owners should do to save a failing business. Could you highlight a couple of those key areas as a starting or jump-off point?
But my first point here, Dan, is probably one of my most important. First of all, we need to change your mindset. When your business is struggling, it's easy to feel hopeless. But if you want to make a comeback, you have no other choice but to change your mindset. We know easier said than done, especially when your inner voice keeps sending you negative messages. You're going to fail.
Yeah.
You don't have the courage to take on that kind of risk, or there's no point in even trying anymore. The negative inner voice has to be silenced as soon as possible. Now the question is, how do you silence that negative inner voice? First of all, acknowledge it. Acknowledging it is the first step in taking charge. When you pay attention to the number of times your inner voice is getting in the way throughout the day, you'll be surprised how often it rears its ugly head and prevents you from doing amazing things. Secondly, challenge it. When your inner voice tells you something negative, like you can't do this, challenge it. Ask yourself if your hearing is really true. And thirdly, silence it. Once you've nailed, acknowledged, and challenged your inner voice, learn to silence it. One thing you can do is imagine you have a remote that controls your negative inner voice. When it rears its ugly head, zap it with the mute button. Then fight back. Replace negative dialogue in your head with positive dialogue. Tell your things like, I can do this. I'm strong enough to get through this. Set back, or I'm growing and learning every day, and believe it. A positive, flexible mindset will help you take on the other things that you can do to save your business, improve your well-being, and increase your confidence. Then, of course, the next key point, extremely important, reduce costs and prioritize what you pay. To keep your business open, most likely you'll need to trim that fat or reduce costs. Start by cutting discretionary or unnecessary expenses. Then look at areas where you can cut costs. The last thing you want to do is cut costs in your people. Then, of course, importantly, coming back to that, manage your cash flow. As you know from the statistics, we mentioned in the beginning that 83% of small business that fell because of cash flow issues. It probably comes as no surprise that without consistent cash flow, businesses will eventually drive and end up failing. Create a cash flow forecast so you have insight into what's coming in and what's going out. Use the forecast to project likely sales and expenses so you know how much money you're likely to have in your bank account, sending invoices out on time, and following up with customers who haven't paid you. A massive problem, the non-payment of invoice, which, Damian, we've spoken over the months frequently. Then talk to your creditors. Don't ignore them. If you're like most small business owners, you probably have debt to pay. Many business owners see debt as a sign of failure. This is not so. Try not to feel too overwhelmed by outstanding debt or avoid creditors. That only makes matters worse. Instead, talk to your creditors and explain your situation and your plans to pay your debt. Most creditors are understanding and willing to work with you if they're confident you'll eventually pay what you owe. And then, of course, finally, always focus on your clients. Keeping clients satisfied and happy has never been more important than it is today. We live in a world where people demand more, and if business owners don't meet increasing expectations, people will voice their opinion on social media and they will go elsewhere.
100%. I think you've provided some really key insights into how to try and manage and stem, a struggling business. It is difficult times out there, so I'm sure we managed to kind of touch a few people today and give some valuable advice. As always, Mike, thank you so much for your time. We'll catch up with you again next Tuesday.
Thank you, Damian. You take good care.
Stay well. Mike Anderson, CEO and founder of NSBC Africa. If you'd like some more info, you can visit them at www.nsbc.africa.
Business Boost is brought to you by Mix 93.8 and the National Small Business Chamber, turning small business into big business.
The Midday Mix on Mix 93.8.